Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick video about Sony's latest firmware update announcement for the Sony a7R Mark IV, the a7R Mark III, and the a7 Mark III. Now this was announced this morning, December 17th, 2019, and before you get your hopes up, specifically owners of the a7R III and the a7 III, I'll end those hopes right now. Really, it's Sony that's doing it, not me. I'm only the messenger. You are not getting real-time autofocus. So if you woke up hoping, or you're just watching this video hoping that that would be part of this firmware update, unfortunately, it isn't. And I would imagine this is either a limitation of the hardware or, of course, Sony making sure that you need to upgrade. I'm not accusing or pointing to either one, but that seems to be the scenario. So what are you getting? Let's start off with the a7R IV, and this is, I would say, for all three of the cameras, but it appears the My Menu feature is limited to the a7R IV at this point, and I no longer have the a7R III or the a7 III, so I can't speak to it. So the a7R IV right now, if you install the firmware update, which I will include a link in the description, will now have a My Menu page. What is that? Very simple. It is a page dedicated to you selecting features you want quick access to. So rather than having to menu dive, hunt through there in order to find what you need, specific functions that you desire or crave, you now can designate a My Menu page with those features for you. I think this is a step in the right direction. It's not Sony redoing the UI or giving us a new menu system, but it is Sony acknowledging that we need a quicker way to access features that we want. So I like that. In addition, we're getting what Sony is calling an external flash set function. So really, this is very simple. Essentially now Sony's F60RM and their F45RM, and I don't know how this will affect third-party flashes, but at least their two flashes you can now control from the camera body. Now this is not only the a7R Mark IV, this is the a7R III and the a7 III, and I think it's significant. It's also compatible with their wireless radio commander. So this is going to now finally, and I say finally because this is a pro feature that I think should have been there and hasn't been there, and now you have that ability. So you can control it obviously on board at the back of the display, or you can use the EVF and also control it, of course, using the on-camera buttons. So, you can dial in the features you want without having to go to the control panel of the flash that you have mounted. And while that may seem like something that should have always been there, it wasn't. And so now with today's firmware update, it will finally be available. And I think, again, that is a feature that many pros out there and amateurs alike were looking for, but unfortunately it just wasn't present with this camera or the R3 or the a7 III. So now you've got it. I think that makes the offering more complete. I think that it's not a monumental update, so this isn't something that when I woke up and saw it, I said, "Ooh, wow, got to get to the computer, got to install that update." However, the My Menu thing is pretty significant. Would I like to have seen something more monumental? Sure, but not every firmware update brings roses, right? It's all about getting improvements that are actual improvements. And I do see the My Menu as being a small step, but a step. And then the flash thing, that should have been there from the beginning, but now we've got it. What I really would like to see, as many of you, as I already mentioned, are those updates to the a7R III and the a7 Mark III, but I have to believe, as I said earlier in the video, we aren't going to see those things because they would, I want to believe it's all a limitation of hardware because I trust Sony isn't trying to fleece anyone. I mean, they have a good reputation. They have built up their DI business so that now they're standing at the top, and I would like to believe that's not what they're doing. And more so that it's about the fact that there are limitations to the hardware. But of course, alternatively, the other angle is marketing. And again, I don't think it's a marketing issue, that they're concerned with cannibalizing other cameras. I think that it is a limitation of hardware because we're really only seeing those features in their more modern cameras, the a6400, the a6600, the a7R IV, the a9 Mark II, the RX100 Mark VII. So it seems that real-time autofocus is really only living in brand new cameras from 2019, and that makes sense if it is hardware driven. Of course, it also seems a little bit like it could be marketing, but again, I think that Sony is pretty good about bringing whatever they can to make cameras they are still selling, which include, of course, the R3 and the A3, the 7 III, as many robust features as possible to continue to make them attractive and viable professional tools. So we'll see. I've seen a lot of people complaining that they can't get the red autofocus color on screen in the A7R IV Mark III, or of course the A7 III. But really, again, this is all about two things: the My Menu and the Flash. Any questions or comments, please feel free to hit that, or excuse me, feel free to post that comment, hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.